This talk is about, good, no feedback, about gossip protocols. Who here is interested in libp2p? I do work at the Filecoin Foundation, which is connected to IPFS, peer-to-peer protocols in particular, how they communicate using a gossip protocol. Anyway, okay, great, because this talk is nothing about that. I realized we threw this together at the last moment and went, oh, this will be a great metaphor, gossip protocol. And then I just suddenly realized, looking at all the other presentations, oh no, people are going to get exactly the wrong context here. This is going to be about revolutionary movement building in the cypherpunk community and the function of gossip within that. I've been an activist for 30 years, and to be honest, I have done a bunch of stuff in privacy, but I think generally speaking, my heart is in sort of the main thing I've been doing is sort of free speech. So, you know, boo. I mean, one of the things that's always interesting is that you know, you work together, and it's often the same people, and people often think of free speech and privacy as opposed in some ways. And also, I think that they're somewhat counter-cyclical. So one of the things that happens is that free speech comes to the forefront and becomes a very popular thing, and then it regresses and privacy becomes the more important thing. We had a term that we used which was downhill battle. So, you know, uphill battles, right? You're fighting against the common belief systems of what you're dealing with, and downhill battles are where the technology and the culture enables you to do that. And free speech is very interesting in that respect, right? Because for about the first decade of digital rights activism, free speech was a downhill battle, right? You go into, I would hang out with parties like this, and I'd go, you know, people would say, oh, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I don't like to talk about it, but actually I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a free speech organization. And then we go, oh, great, I love you guys. Oh, that's amazing. And then there was a sort of transition about 2012 where I'd start saying, you know, I work for a free speech organization, and people go, huh, so are you a Nazi? And I go, well, no. I mean, obviously I fight for your right to call me a Nazi, but no, I'm not in fact a Nazi. And it's fascinating to watch these loops going through in time. And I think it's important because I do think right now, even though it doesn't necessarily feel that way, we're in the downhill battle of the privacy fight, right? For the last few years, even though you lose in so many cases, the idea of privacy has been much easier to convey to people. People have a generic kind of anxiety. They know something's being stripped away. You know, time was where the thing that you would hear, and you will still hear it, is, well, you know, I've got nothing to hide. And now people are sort of like, I would like to have something to hide, right? Like everything has been stripped and broadcast across the whole thing. I would just like a little part of my life that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't know about. And one of the things that happens is so you're at this peak and you don't realize you're at this peak, and then things start pulling away from you, right? And people start turning against you or your opponents. And I think one of the things that binds the free speech and the privacy movement together is not only a sort of commonality understanding about how technology can transform those civil liberties and encode those civil liberties, it's also that we have a common set of opponents, right? Authoritarians, perhaps paradoxically, despise free speech and despise privacy. So that's one of the things that sort of bonds you together. But when the culture is turning against one of those things, you sort of have a question about what you want to do, right? Because you have a choice, right? You can either kind of double down on your principles, right? You turn into a free speech absolutist or a privacy absolutist, even though everybody around you is pointing to the dangers of these things. And that means you get to preserve that value through that curve, right? And so now, as we look at the cypherpunk movement, which has been going on for 20, 30 years, you know, you have that core of sort of, not extremists, but of purists, let's say, who sort of defended themselves even in the other things. Kragan. You joined the list 3 years ago? 33 years ago. I was going to say 3 years ago. That was a little late. But 33, yeah, there you go. Today? Oh, okay. Craig and I know each other from the Cypherpunks list. So, and a few other things. I am not one of those activists, right? As you can probably tell, I'm kind of somewhat wishy-washy. There's going to be some name dropping if I have enough time in this in this thing, and I want to convey that this is not name dropping in order to embellish myself in any way or promote myself. In fact, it's a weird kind of name dropping where nobody comes out of it good, including me, right? I'll say some funny story, and go, "Oh, I'm hanging out with so and so," and you'll come away from it going, "You're both kind of creepy." So so my first name drop, and frankly, I've been riding on his coattails, is Cory Doctorow. And I used to, did I mention I used to work at the EFF? I used to work with Cory, and Cory is super interesting because Cory, as you know, pioneer of who read Little Brother when they were a kid, who enshittifies the conversations at any point. So Cory had my job before me at EFF, which is to be activist, and there was a single activist, and Cory was the other. I would always be writing these things going, "Oh, we highly disapprove of the, somebody coming and Cory on his first day gave his first draft of a press release to go out from the EFF, and the editors at EFF, came up and said, "So this is, I mean, fantastic prose. I'm not sure we can say coked up Hollywood fat cats in a press release." It was like, why? Because we're a law firm, okay? We can't, like, what? And also, you don't want to alienate people and stuff like that. But my other point here is that Cory talks a lot, if you read his stuff, and you absolutely should read his stuff, particularly for phrases like that, talks a lot about movements and coalitions. Right? So when you have a movement, you kind of want that central value, right? But you're often forming coalitions with other people, right? And in that situation, you want to have a shared value, maybe a shared opponent, right? And you have sort of a softer feeling to your alloys. And the reason, again, there is reason behind all of this, and I will have a technical element. The technical bit is coming up, I promise. If you come here for libp2p, I have a small technical thing. We're 30 seconds away with it. Bear with me as we go through the soft, fluffy stuff, right? So I see in a movement like this, and you see all these signs, right, that say, cypherpunks from the 90s, me and Kragan, and people even older than us, the neo-cypherpunks, right? You are in coalition with the past, right? This is not, there is a movement line, but you are very different from those people. And now I'm going to tell you more gossip to try and convey how different you are. Because frankly, coming to a thing called cypherpunks, having met the original cypherpunks, I'm sitting there going, oh boy, I'm not sure. I mean, they're not dead, right? We're not that old, but like it would be weird. Okay, so I used to be a journalist, a British journalist, and I went in 2000, and I used to hang out with the cypherpunk people. It was great. I went to a party in Silicon Valley, which is not as exciting as it sounds. It was just in a suburban home in Santa Clara, and I'm with some cypherpunks. Obviously, like, can I give them their names? So, has anybody heard of Lucky Green? There you see, Craig knows, right? So that's the kind of name dropping I'm doing here. I'm giving the names of people who you've never heard of, and they're pseudonyms anyway, because they're cypherpunks. Anyway, I'm sitting with all these people, and they come up to me, and they know I'm a journalist, and they're a bit mad with, you may know that the cypherpunks were libertarians. I don't know whether that got through in the press release. Not coked up Hollywood libertarians, just but anyway, and they were mad with, there was a libertarian journalist called Declan McCulloch, right? And he was the most, he was, back when, back when libertarian was new and interesting. He was the libertarian journalist, but they were mad at him because I don't know, I guess he suggested that you should pay your taxes or something. But anyway, so they were mad at him, and so they approached me, and they'd read my stuff, and they said, Danny, we'd like you to be our journalist. Now, this is what I mean about a coalition, a movement, and the importance of values, right? Is that like, if you do want someone, I understand, right? Is that 5 minutes? Really? Okay, good, right. We started at past. What? Watch these people fight amongst themselves as to whether I'm going to talk some more. So, okay. So that's not how you talk to a journalist, even if you want to get them on your side, right? You don't go up to them like, I mean, maybe Donald Trump does, but like if I was to come up to you and go, hey, I've got a good story for you, and if you print that story, you'll be my journalist, right? It's not going to pay out that way. So I was like a little freaked out like that. And then, to add weirdness to this situation, they put a gun on the table. And I'm British, right? And so I've never really seen a gun. And I don't know what the social niceties, in the same way as they didn't know to say, you know, you're our journalist. I was not a great understander of what the symbolism of putting a gun on the table was. And so, you know, I did what I thought was the obvious thing, is to show admiration for the gun. And so I'm going, oh yeah, this is great. And and you, I mean, luckily it was unloaded. Otherwise, none of you would have been here. But like watching so many proud libertarians hit the deck of a Santa Clara thing was amazing. So so those are the cypherpunks. But like, you obviously don't get to hear those stories very often, right? Because in a movement, the thing that carries over time, like digital data, is things like manifestos, right? So the values that you get are from those elements. And this is gossip, right? This is, I mean, this is trivia, right? This is the special trivia corner of the whole thing. And trivia is trivial. Gossip is trivial, but it can also be dangerous, right? So let me give you another example. Tim May, head cypherpunk, I guess. He didn't write the Cypherpunk Manifesto. What did he write? The Crypto Anarchist Manifesto, right? So Tim was a huge poster to Usenet. Do people know what Usenet is? Kind of. It was sort of like, I don't know, how can I, it was like if there was only one forum in the world, right, simultaneously, and it was on the web. That was Usenet. And he was a shitposter on Usenet, and everybody in the cypherpunk community were very concerned about privacy, but did not think that Usenet would be preserved forever. So if you search for Tim May, and it's quite hard to do now because Google bought up the archives and then Googled it. But if you do search for Tim May and then type in a word that I can't say, and I can barely type, right? At this point in our technological development, this word is so bad that I think it's blocked at 3 levels of the technology stack, right? Like, it won't autocomplete. It probably won't get you past your router in many services, and I think at this point, you know, probably Mozilla will automatically deny you. If you saw that, and I've mentioned this to journalists in the past, right? I've said, okay, if you want the full context here, you can look for this story. But at the same time, I know that story in some way, and I don't know if it was Tim May posting this stuff, right? This is the other thing, because he didn't sign with a key, because cypherpunks write code, but they rarely execute it. But it's toxic, right? Like, and we you know, part again of a movement is if you build a movement on heroes, and that's what we're doing, right? When we have all these pictures up of all these noble people, right? And we go, come here because you get to see, you know, Richard Stallman, God bless your hearts. Then when those heroes are found to have flaws via gossip, you have 2 choices, right? Well, you have a number of choices, but there are 2 big ones, right? One is you deny the gossip, right? You deny the humanity of those heroes because you want to preserve the idea. And the second one is that you throw away the idea because the person that you were brought into this, the person that drew you emotionally into the situation, turned out to just be a normal, broken human being. Oh, I forgot the technological bit. I'm sorry for those of you who are just waiting for this. So if you do want to preserve things into the future, this is great. This is going to sound like a sponsored podcast thing. But I just sat there and going, I got to stick something technical in the bit. Have a look into DRAND. DRAND, the random number generator for the future. No, DRAND is a, explain it, Bumblefudge. It's distributed entropy. You could contribute to that entropy, and there's a really nice set of toolkits. Now it's 5 minutes, thank you. That you can use to time lock encryption. So if you really did want to leave a message for the generations and they know it was from you, rather than sitting there going, did Tim May really say the thing with the hard R? Then you can lock it in time and space. And so that's very interesting, and you may be able to use that into their applications. Anyway, now back to the good stuff. Right, so, what do we do with this gossip? And in particular, also, gossip occupies a weird space in both free speech and privacy, right? Like, so in free speech, if you look at constitutions around the world, including, I think, the Argentinian constitution, it's like free speech good, dissing people bad, attacking people's reputation. And this is ultimately, I think, why the free speech movement kind of curved back down, is because the first time I realized we were in trouble was South Korea. South Korea really led the path for internet adoption, and they were some of the first people that came up with the phrase meat search engine, which we now kind of think of as doxing. But a meat search engine was when someone was randomly plucked out and the collective kind of found out everything about them. And so that was one of the first impacts of this. So gossip in many ways undermined free speech, and gossip is also one of those fundamental challenges with privacy policies, right? Because is gossip the thing you want to preserve because you want people to like communicate on signals securely? Is it the value you want to convey? Or is gossip a violation of privacy? Is it taking personal data and then shimmying it off in other directions? Is this the thing, are we in coalition with gossip, right? Or is it one of our opponents? Now, I'm just going to leave you with sort of what I think gossip is how knowledge propagates, right? I think that one of the things that digital technology provided us is a possibility of conveying not just a dominant narrative, not just the story of our heroes, but also the story of our flaws, and have those on an equal basis, right? And that has led to a confusion, the babble we are in now, of viewpoints. But I think it's the thing that will give us a balance between the heroes and the ideas. Right? Because you'll be able to hopefully understand the flaws of the humanity, but still be able to bear the ideas down. So thank you for listening to my strange voyage through the past. The last thing I just want to point out is I sort of said that gossip was sort of the downfall of the free speech movement, but I don't think that's true. I think the place where it really hits you is not when your opponents use the flaws of your leaders or supposed leaders against you. It's when they use your own ideas against you, right? So going back to the first part of this conversation, you know, there's an awful moment where you go, I'm really into free speech. So are the Nazis. Is my idea bad because a Nazi licked it once? You know, and that's the point that is very hard to handle, because that's, in some ways, you understand the flaws of other people, right? And you can either forgive them or condemn them. But when somebody starts using your ideas, rather than opposing your ideas, but adopting your ideas and then weaponizing them against the fundamental values you have, that's the point where you have a real crisis of conscience. And I want to point this out just because I think this is what's going to happen now in the privacy movement, right? And it's already happening, right? Right now, you have some, like, clear battle lines, right? If you're not fighting chat control, then what are you doing here, right? Like, you've got to do that sort of thing. But so GDPR, how long got? 1 minute, 2 minutes? While you're looking, okay, so GDPR people, I used to hang out with the GDPR people. It's somehow not as cool as the gun-toting cypherpunks, right? I was like, oh yeah, I know those Brussels bureaucrats pretty well. And anyway, they're also not they were fine. If you love the GDPR, they were fine. I have no dirt on the GDPR rapporteurs. I mean, they were Green Party, so their snacks sucked. I mean, nice vegan curries, but like the little fake chocolate things, disgusting. Anyway, okay, I gotta wrap it up. Okay, so GDPR came through. One of the biggest victories in a regulatory space of the privacy movement, I think, of the last 20 years, right? Free speech, sure, you go, kids, great. It was very shortly after that that the Hungarian government began to use the GDPR against people speaking out. And their argument was, it's gossip again, right? That like, if you say this leader did this thing 10 years ago, right? Is that a violation of their data protection? Do they somehow own the idea of their own personal data? Because we talk a lot about ownership. And if they own that data, does that mean that they can reach into your brain and prize it out, right? And I mean, it sounds ridiculous now, but a lot of the things that we were threat modeling about our free speech rhetoric became the things that they used to undermine our free speech rhetoric. So I want you to watch out for that, because it's not, you don't have to worry about your opponents, right? You don't have to worry about the flaws of your allies. You have to worry about your own faith in your ideas when your opponents adopt them and use them against you. So thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with me with the time. And I think the most important thing is, like, when you think about heroes and leaders and things like that, the important thing you should come away with, don't fucking trust anyone on the main stage. All right.